Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing, yes. They left, leaving Edward alone to experience the solitude of his office, like tea growing cold after guests depart. After a long while, he finally chuckled. Very good. The more he's hated, the better. Wang Zan, oh Wang Zan, I hope this pressure doesn't crush you. Otherwise, I will become the last straw that breaks you. Of course, if the pressure doesn't crush him. Edward mused. Perhaps if he's truly nurtured, he could be used to mend relations with the Federation's four great powers. That wouldn't be bad either. Wang Zan couldn't care less about any of that. As far as he was concerned, he'd inexplicably gotten into a whole mess of fights recently. If it hadn't been for the generous harvest of attribute points and the surge in his realm, he would have lost everything, down to his last coin. So, he really hadn't been joking. If she wasn't worth 1 billion, then he'd just have her earn him a few million. A small, steady stream of income. Besides, this kind of trash, despite her delicate skin and hailing from a prominent family, would surely be coveted by many of their rivals. They say the enemy of one's enemy is a friend. Gaining a friend by exchanging someone supposedly worth 10 billion wouldn't be a bad deal either. Young Master Wang, are you very short on money? If you are, I can report back to the young master about it. Tang Chi hesitated, wanting to say more but stopping himself. He had never encountered someone like Wang Zan before. Someone who not only beat women but also planned to send them to a brothel. He was ruthless to an extreme, a path that seemed to offer no benefit to anyone, himself included, and practically forced people to their doom. As a subordinate of Yang Zeking and part of the Yang family's secret forces, he knew Wang Zan had already allied with Yang Zeking. A single misstep could implicate him, so how could he not be concerned? Wang Zan turned his head to glance at him with a teasing smile. You'd best not interfere in my affairs. Otherwise, I'll start to seriously doubt the sincerity of his cooperation with me. You're here to be my bodyguard, not my prison guard. Tang Chi chuckled awkwardly. He laughed, unsure what to say. There was definitely an undertone to Wang Zan's words. Who knew what kind of backing Wang Zan truly had? One of the missions the Yang family had given him was precisely to investigate Wang Zan's background. But this kid seemed incredibly sharp, he had apparently seen through him in an instant. What should I do? I know how to fight, but I'm not very good at deceiving or trapping people. As Tang Chi was lost in thought, Wang Zan paid him no further attention, merely slowing his pace slightly, apparently pondering something. This continued until a faint, somewhat inexplicable aura entered Wang Zan's perception. Wang Zan looked up and saw the figure standing on the street before him. He immediately chuckled and said, "Is the Tang family ready for the trade?" The man in front of him was the same Grand Master from before. With a blank expression, he tossed a card from his hand to Wang Zan, apparently unafraid that Wang Zan would go back on his word, and said coldly, "Kid, you're already in deep enough trouble for offending the Royal Martial Arts Academy. Do you really want to offend several more families? Aren't you afraid you'll die without even a place to be buried?" Wang Zan took the card and remarked noncommittally, "Is there really 10 billion in there?" The Grand Master had no intention of humoring this madman and said in a grim voice, "Hand her over." Wang Zan smiled faintly and said, "Give her to him. If there isn't 10 billion in there, then it's best the Tang family doesn't let me run into any of them next time. My life is cheap. I didn't want to offend anyone in the past, but I ended up offending them anyway, which led to me becoming homeless." Chapter 162, starting over again. Wang Zan chuckled, not caring at all that he was discussing his past. "But now I've figured it out, money talks. I don't care if I offend you. If you provoke me again, settling things won't be as simple as it was for that 10 billion. Of course, if you have any enemies you can't handle, you can also come to me. How about 1 billion per hit? I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Never mind martial generals, I'll even kill grandmasters for you." Who could have imagined that Wang Zan, while facing his enemies, would still be in the mood to solicit business? The grandmaster's expression was cold as he looked at Wang Zan with a meaningful gaze. Wang Zan, completely unafraid, raised his head, a smile playing on his lips. Afterwards, the two parted ways. Only Tang Chi felt somewhat baffled, feeling that Wang Zan's train of thought was a bit insane. One moment, He wanted to sell someone's precious daughter into a brothel, and the next, he was planning to make money off them? Has the world really changed so quickly? The Grandmaster swiftly returned to the Tang family estate with Tang Yui, where he met a stern-faced, white-haired old man. Mission accomplished. The young miss has been brought back. The old man lowered his head, his expression unchanging as he looked at his granddaughter, who was so terrified she had wet herself. Take her away. Clean her up thoroughly before you bring her to me. It doesn't matter if her talent is somewhat lacking, but she nearly brought great shame upon the Tang family. She must be taught a lesson. A middle-aged woman silently took Tang Yui from the Grandmaster's hands and departed. The old man looked at the Grandmaster and asked softly, "Did you learn anything?" A family has begun to invest in him. They've dispatched a high-level Grandmaster. As for the boy himself, I didn't notice anything particularly special. No, wait. His power recovery is too fast, and the weakness in his saber technique seems to be diminishing. The old man pondered. Has his recovery time quickened? Is it due to the blood essence pill's bloodline talent, or his own inherent bloodline talent? What exactly is his bloodline talent? Did he say anything else? The Grandmaster's expression suddenly became unsightly, the corner of his eye twitching slightly. He said if we have any business, we can call him. 1 billion for a job, and he guaranteed we'd be satisfied. The old man chuckled. Interesting. It seems the Royal Martial Arts Academy has sharpened his wits a bit, turning him into a sly fox. The Grandmaster spoke softly, sharing his impression of Wang Zan. Family head, he might actually dare to sell the young miss into those lousy places. That boy. He's someone with nothing to lose. How would he know who you are? If you can't kill him, of course, he'd dare to sell her. And if he did sell her, what would be the point of killing him then? Haha, Jing State finally has an interesting character. Good. From now on, you maintain contact with him. Doesn't he want to make money? Give it to him. What? The Grandmaster looked at the old man in disbelief, wishing he could bite off his own tongue. Back in the wilderness. This time, Yang Qi was truly at a loss for words. Wang Zan had actually managed to get 10 billion so easily. Not a few million, not tens of millions, but a genuine 10 billion. With 10 billion in support, Yang Qi could immediately gather enough resources to advance to the Grandmaster realm in the shortest possible time. But little did he know, for Wang Zan, this was merely the beginning. Indeed, one should never give up on such lucrative, life-or-death business. No money means no followers mean no resources mean no progress, and no progress means getting bullied. It seems that, aside from the system, I also need to consider how to make money. At the very least, I need to gather a group of people to back me up, so I won't have to worry about being helpless when encountering such situations again. If I had my own factions, even small ones, they would be mine. Others definitely wouldn't dare to oppress me so easily. If we couldn't operate openly, we'd just go underground. Qin Ying did say that the slots in the Death Expeditionary Force alone were enough to recruit 10 followers. It's just a matter of whether I can afford to support them. After all, elixirs, weapons, and armor all cost money. Let's call it a day. The money is already secured. Next is to handle the Chu State Military Martial Academy team's participation in the Federal Martial Arts Competition. The rewards from that should be worth at least tens of millions. Thinking about this, he drifted off to sleep. Only Yang Qi felt helpless. This guy is so unreliable. Even during my family training, I was never just left to spend the night in the wilderness. What on earth is he planning? What goes on in that head of his? Why does he seem so different from the invincible hero my young master described? All I've seen is this kid's shameless arrogance. And now, he's actually fallen asleep right here in the wilderness, completely unafraid of being devoured by a beast in the dead of night and torn to pieces. The next day. Temporary Stadium, Chu State Military Martial Academy Team's camp. Why are you back? Song Dongming and Huang Pufeng looked at Wang Zan in surprise, as if they had no idea what had transpired. But as Wang Zan glanced around, he could already tell. In Sun Kellen's eyes, there was a complex mix of emotions regarding him. Chen Mengshu, on the other hand, seemed better. She was no longer timid and observed him with the curiosity of a well-bred young lady. He found it strangely endearing. Why shouldn't I be back? Wang Zan joked, deliberately ignoring the fact that he had supposedly severed all ties with the Chu State Military Martial Academy. Actually, you two didn't do so well while I was gone. You were almost bullied right on your own turf. The Chu State Military Martial Academy was one thing, but these two genius martial brothers, with whom he had once shared life and death situations, were another. They still had the potential to become his followers. However, the moment Wang Zan mentioned it, Huang Pufeng flared up. Damn it. You're quite the big shot now, aren't you? You caused all that trouble and got away scot-free, while we're the ones who got humiliated. How are we supposed to show our faces? Huh? Wang Zan was momentarily stunned, then quickly understood. It must be about that incident Li Chengyuan stirred up. I don't know if his intentions were good or bad, but he'd better hope I don't get my hands on him. I really don't like that Li Chengyuan, always lurking in the shadows. I didn't feel this way when I first met him, but it's becoming increasingly obvious. I wonder where he's hiding now, enjoying the show I'm putting on. He could only laugh and say, please. Well, you're not entirely useless. If you raise your cultivation realm a bit, get a little stronger, and improve your control over your power slightly, there might be a tiny sliver of hope that you can eat my dust. Damn it. This kid is getting more arrogant by the second. We absolutely can't let him get away with this. Song Dongming, get him. As expected, Wang Zan effortlessly subdued his two attackers. Only then did Song Dongming belatedly realize what Huang Pufeng had ordered, and his face darkened. You brat, do you think I'm your pet dog? Huang Pufeng chuckled. Not at all, not at all. A pet dog wouldn't be nearly as obedient as you. Ha 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 ha. Not only did Chen Mengxi giggle, no longer timid but bright and cheerful, but even Sun Cullen couldn't maintain her complex expression and burst out laughing. For a moment, the room was filled with joy. Once the amusement subsided, it was time for serious matters. Wang Zan looked at the various injuries, large and small, on the four of them and said softly, I've returned for one purpose only, to help you win first place in the Federal Martial Arts competition. Of course, it's not pro bono, I expect to be compensated. Song Dongming waved his hand. Alright, forget about compensation. If you're willing, you can take me with you. Song Dongming was very serious and earnest. His words might have sounded amusing, but no one laughed. This sent a wave of warmth through Wang Zan. If nothing else, these two men before him were teammates who had truly been through life and death with him. Their bond had only deepened with time. Wang Zan let out a light sigh and got up to leave, saying with a smile, Alright, you all get some rest. Don't worry about the Royal Martial Arts Academy. I'll handle this grudge. Suddenly, Huang Pufeng called out to him and said seriously, Wang Zan, don't push things too far with them. We don't blame you, it's our own weakness. But don't give the Royal Martial Arts Academy another opening, or you might not be able to withstand the consequences. He also came from a prominent family, so he understood all too well the scheming and filth within these major powers. Meeting the four pairs of eyes, each showing a different level of concern, Wang Zan chuckled. What's there to be afraid of? I can kill a few grandmasters. Give me a few years, and I'll make even a martial emperor bow his head to me. His domineering aura was palpable, completely undisguised. This was the real reason Wang Zan had been willing to lower his head and act subserviently before Edward. In the distance, the four deans of the Federal Martial Arts Academies who were observing Wang Zan's movements smiled faintly, their thoughts unknown. It's not a lack of strength we fear, but a lack of ambition. That day, Wang Zan entered the temporary stadium alone. As arranged by Vice Presidents Liu Xing and Delvi Zhenglong, his name was once again moved from the pending list to the list of active competitors. As team captain, as long as his strength did not exceed the warrior threshold, he could participate directly in the Federal Martial Arts competition. His previous absence was merely considered a temporary leave. However, his arrival caused a huge uproar in the temporary stadium. Whether it was the Federation's Big Four, the Qian Martial Arts Academy, whose members had met Wang Zan once, or the many other martial arts academies, everyone was talking about Wang Zan. How is he back? Hasn't his strength already surpassed the limit, making him ineligible for the Martial Arts Academy competition? We've all seen the video footage of him, even grandmasters were powerless against him. His participation is blatantly unfair to all other martial arts academies. Who among us could possibly be a match for him? This is unacceptable. We must speak to our mentors. We need to protest to the officials. Someone capable of killing martial generals and grandmasters doesn't belong in our competition, he should be on the battlefield. At that moment, countless voices of objection erupted. Wang Zan's strength was seen as a mockery. A loophole. In the Federal Martial Arts competition, rendering everyone else incapable of truly competing. Yet, the Federation's Big Four and the Qian Martial Arts Academy remained silent. They had long known Wang Zan would return to the arena, and his strength was undeniable. He was merely a warrior, after all. Perfectly reasonable. Chapter 163, Entrance March 7, 2257, Federation Calendar. Outside the wilderness area, ferocious beasts were everywhere, some roaming recklessly, others lounging lazily, stretching their limbs in the sunlight, undisturbed. But at the same exact moment, within the temporary stadium located in the wilderness area, there was no such leisure. Instead, there was a surge of people, whispering amongst themselves. A palpable, surging heat radiated from them, seeming to soar 90,000 li into the heavens, intensifying even the scorching sun's blaze. Effective immediately. Wang Zhan, the absentee competitor and team leader from Chu State Military Martial Academy, officially returned to the green field, to the life and death arena. Royal Martial Arts Academy. Wang Zhan, damn him. How dare he humiliate our Royal Martial Arts Academy? The incident involving Tang Yui hardly needed time to ferment. It had just occurred and already thoroughly ignited the collective animosity of the Royal Martial Arts Academy. Once again, Wang Zhan was unanimously viewed as a mortal enemy, a disgrace to the Royal Martial Arts Academy. However, despite their anger and resentment, several warriors who had followed their senior martial brothers and witnessed Wang Zhan's true strength remained silent. The Federal Martial Arts Competition was merely a platform for talented students at the warrior realm from various academies to spar and thereby grow rapidly. Did it really have to come to a life and death struggle? Sigh, let's just take things one step at a time. We have to be careful with his blade. We absolutely cannot give him an opportunity to gather power for his strike. The moment we face him, we must immediately entangle and besiege him. No one can let up. Federal Military Martial Arts Academy. Hanking gazed meaningfully at the participant list, where one name, the only one from Chu State Military Martial Academy, stood out conspicuously. Wang Zhan. Junior brother, this kid is truly ferocious. We've all seen his battle records. Do you think you can handle him? If not, we can just admit defeat. In any case, the Royal Martial Arts Academy will be there to cushion the blow if we fail. This was the truth. Who hadn't seen Wang Zhan's battle records, especially the spectacular recordings of his moves? Although they didn't know which faction was trying to elevate Wang Zhan to godhood, it didn't prevent them from forming their own clear assessment of his strength. Those who fought him ended up crippled or dead. There would be trouble. Who knew with how much power he planned to compete? If he intended to compete with his full strength, then none of us need bother fighting, we'd just be his foils. You're right. If Wang Zhan truly proves unbeatable, then we should just admit defeat. Your current realm is still low, there's no need to contend for this single event, no rush for this one time. When one person offered advice, naturally 2, then 3, and even 4 others would follow suit. Unexpectedly, Hanking simply shook his head and chuckled softly. No need. Since he dares to return and compete, if he truly is unbeatable and surpasses the limits the martial arts competition can endure, then even if we are defeated, he won't be able to continue fighting. However, 1 versus 1,000? Wang Zhan, perhaps you have such an ability now, but do you truly still possess it when you're suppressing your strength? Yanjing Martial Arts Academy. Lin Xiaoyan and Yuan Mengru were staring intently at the participant from Chu State Military Martial Academy emerging from the corridor. He was very easy to identify. Wang Zhan was all alone, truly a solitary figure. He really dares to go on stage? Lin Xiaoyan was a little surprised. She had seen Wang Zhan before and knew he was an ambitious man. But she also knew that Wang Zhan only dared to act when he was confident of success, at least he wouldn't be foolish enough to seek death. Yuan Mengru's expression was somewhat complex as she replied perfunctorily, who knows? There are plenty of blindly arrogant people in this world, one more or less makes no difference. However, though Yuan Mengru spoke thus, her heart was conflicted and melancholic. That Wang Zhan, has he really caused such an upheaval? The last time I saw him, wasn't he just a low-rank warrior? Yet now, he's truly on the verge of developing an invincible aura. This realization made Yuan Mengru's gaze grow even more complex as her mind raced. Am I still your opponent? Suddenly, she thought of something and gave a self-deprecating smile. What kind of opponent am I to him? His talent is such that even the Academy Dean values him, willing to build momentum for him. Perhaps my name was never even on his list of opponents. She knew that Wang Zhan's feud with the original organization was long-standing. Moreover, his recent enemies were all martial generals from major families, no weaker than those her own family could boast. The gap between them was widening more and more. The Federal Martial Arts Academy, Qin Martial Arts Academy, Ken State Military Martial Academy, Lan State Military Martial Academy, and so on. All these academies that had dominated and swept through this Federal Martial Arts competition. The moment Wang Zhan appeared on the green field, all their hearts tightened, and they felt an inexplicable tremor. He is almost in the martial master realm. A martial master. That's another qualitative leap on the path of martial arts. One could then serve as a martial arts instructor, stay at a martial arts academy, and their status would be significantly elevated. Killing martial generals, killing grandmasters. This kid, merely a low-level warrior, seemed to dare to kill anyone or anything. So what will happen when he becomes a martial master? A figure like this actually came back to compete with us for the federal martial arts competition? Why? Shameless. Despicable. Devoid of integrity. Be careful, everyone. If we encounter him this time, we must concede. We'll concede too. At worst, we lose 1,000 points. It's just one match. Can he really defy the heavens? No way. He has backing, but we should also report back to our martial arts academies. We must request higher-level reserve team members to be sent over, otherwise, we won't stand a chance against him, not even for a single round. He possesses mental secret arts, ancient boxing methods, finishing moves, and even a heavenly martial arts technique. Who knows if he'll use some hidden trump card at the critical moment. Someone like him, who completely disrupts the balance, shouldn't have been allowed in. In that case, it would be better to just have us concede. By now, who in the entire Federation didn't know of Wang Zan's strength? Just yesterday, who knows how many reporters and media outlets were lying in ambush beneath the Chu State Military Martial Academy's residential building, just waiting for Wang Zan to show his face. The excited shouts and the constantly moving crowd nearly drove the martial arts academy teams residing near Chu State Military Martial Academy mad. Don't you see? There are still a few youngsters with dark circles around their eyes, looking like national treasures as if they'd been punched. All thanks to Wang Zan. Later, left with no choice, the mentor teams had to forcefully intervene, simultaneously borrowing an order from the Jing State Internal Affairs Department, to finally drive that group of madmen away. It wasn't that Wang Zan was hated, he was simply too strong. So strong that people of his generation didn't even want to be compared to him, so strong that he made everyone lose confidence. In less than a year, he had progressed from a mere martial student to someone capable of fighting. And even slaying. Grandmasters. Who knew if, given more time, even martial kings would be beneath his notice. Wang Zan stepped into the arena, a grin on his face, meeting the countless gazes fixed upon him from near and far. He could even see, not far in front of him, the undisguised hostility and mixed emotions in the eyes of some martial arts academy students leaning against the railings. He also saw, further back, row upon row, thousands upon thousands of pairs of eyes, all focused on him. Half the people are still here. Looks like the championship is in the bag. Wang Zan nodded, appearing satisfied. Eliminating half the contestants in 3 days. The competition was indeed fierce, and this was only the semi-finals. One could imagine how diluted the talent pool was. 300,000 points were a good thing, but it depended on whether one had the ability to take them. However, Wang Zan glanced at his system attributes. Host, Wang Zan strength, 3,300 agility, 3,300 physique, 3,300 charm, 240 wisdom, 100 mental power, 4,800 still. I have to thank Tang Mingzong. Attribute points granted by the system, huh? These people who came to serve as cannon fodder are my real assets. As long as he obtained the resources from winning the competition, whether through a period of secluded cultivation or by growing stronger through combat, Wang Zan could directly break through and become a martial master. A martial master, huh? I wonder what kind of realm that is. Remember, do not use more than 1/10 of your strength. You are about to become a martial master, 1/10 of your strength is sufficient. Don't push them too hard. Your enemies are only on the battlefield. Yan Tani earnestly instructed, his tone heavy. Wang Zan's lips curled. Who said my enemies are only on the battlefield? While you old foxes were holding down the fort, you already opened up 2 new battlefields for me. If it weren't for you, how could I have improved so quickly, and all of it thanks to internal strife? Warriors of the human race don't die on the battlefield but instead die at the hands of their own people. Hey, a bunch of prodigal sons. Let them die, let them all die. Only when I become strong will I have the right to speak. He didn't refute, merely lowered his head. Who wouldn't know how to do that? Thinking this, Wang Zan raised his head and shouted loudly, Team Captain of Chu State Military Martial Academy, Wang Zan, hereby formally issues a challenge. Just moments ago, the 4 great academy deans specifically told me not to use power exceeding the limits, that 1/10 of my essence energy would be sufficient. I think that's excellent, truly excellent. To me, all of you are only worth 1/10 of my effort, perhaps even 1/28 would do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're no good, I'm saying that everyone present here is no good. Those who don't believe it, come up and fight me. Today, I will seek justice for Chu State Military Martial Academy. These 300,000 points. In my opinion, even if I leave 100,000 for you, it would be the Federation showing you great consideration. Come on. I await you all. J. Altai Mountain. This insolent kid. Yan Tani's face darkened. Wei Daming, however, laughed heartily, and even Mu Dongjun was amused. Let him be angry, let him be angry. Perhaps after getting angry enough, he'll learn to be more sensible. The students nowadays, relying on us old folks paving the way ahead, have no idea what's following behind them. They lack any sense of urgency. Yuntani's mouth twitched. If you like it, fine. Anyway, if someone dies from anger, I won't be the only one responsible. He'll target your academies first. Mudong-jun said with a smile, hey, that's not our concern. Anyway, if he survives, he'll be your man. At that time, this debt will naturally be counted against your Yanjing Martial Arts Academy. Yuntani's face darkened further. These two. They're happy to reap the benefits, but in the end, it seems they plan to let me take the blame? Too bad Edward isn't here. Otherwise, I could discuss with him about having Wang Zan join his faction. After all, none of them are good people. In fact, Edward hadn't appeared by their side for a long time. Ever since Wang Zan appeared and a rift formed between Edward and the other three, this rift not only failed to mend but had, on the contrary, widened further. Even Edward had once calculated that if Wang Zan didn't die, he himself could nurture Wang Zan, considering him a gesture of goodwill from the Royal Martial Arts Academy to make amends with the other four major academies. But the prerequisite for this was that Wang Zan had to survive. Chapter 164, Mr. 13. If Wang Zan didn't die, that meant he was capable, and Edward could choose to keep him alive for his value. If Wang Zan died, that meant he was a loser, and if he still had a breath left in him, Edward would finish him off personally. Ah, Edward. Well, those on different paths do not plan together. The three sighed. They had already seen the truth and the root cause of the rift behind the scenes. They might not cherish the lives of every potentially rising genius, but at least they would grant them freedom and pay attention to the talents they could value, even extending a helping hand. But in Edward's eyes, there were too many such opportunities, so many that only the cream of the crop could be selected and guided along the path he laid out for them. As for those who were bad, inferior, or unable to survive, they were all losers. On the stands, everyone saw Wang Zan's brazen display. Most of the Martial Arts Academy students present scowled, their faces darkening as their eyes fixed intently on Wang Zan. How outrageous. We only merit 1/10 of his strength? He'd better pray he doesn't meet us, or we'll teach him why the flowers are so red. Does he think having 1 or 2 heavenly martial arts makes him invincible? How naive. You guys tie him up later, I'll test his real skills and see if his supposed feat of slaying a grandmaster was just hype from the original organization. Ha, that's quite possible. Who knows if he's just a seed propped up by the original organization to mislead us? I refuse to believe it. No matter how strong he is, he's still in the warrior realm, just like us. Slay a grandmaster? If that wasn't staged, I'll eat my hat. But none of the Martial Arts Academy students noticed that, in this arena belonging to the Federal Martial Arts Academy, quite a few peculiar individuals had unknowingly mingled in. Some held thick books, while others collared anyone they could find and peppered them with questions. Some even turned their gaze to Wang Zan, who was standing on the green field awaiting his opponent, and whispered conspiratorially, "Please pay attention, everyone. Our Federation's young hero, Wang Zan, is officially representing the Chu State Military Martial Academy. This battle is his third since returning from the Oceania Death Battlefield, following the 2 confrontations at the gates of Jing State and the Royal Martial Arts Academy. Perhaps there won't be a dazzling spectacle, perhaps no earth-shattering legend will be forged, but I believe that this time, humanity will witness the rise of an invincible seed. His name is Wang Zan. Folks, what are you waiting for? Hurry over and watch. The young hero is set to steamroll the competition. Let's see how it unfolds." Finally, the Chu State Military Martial Academy team versus the Zhu State Military Martial Academy team. Now, please welcome the competitors to the stage. Wang Zan's first battle was here. He stood proudly, his demeanor calm and sleeves unstained, a stark contrast to his earlier boisterousness. He now exuded the poise of a humble grandmaster. Of course, to Wang Zan, it was a calculated display of understatement. To everyone else, however, it was an immense pressure, instantly tightening the hearts of all the Zhu State Military Martial Academy team members preparing to take the stage. Could they win? "Hello, I am Wang Zan," Wang Zan greeted lightly, a faint smile on his face as he watched the slowly approaching Zhu State Military Martial Academy team. The captain of the Zhu State Military Martial Academy team was a young man. He might have once been uninhibited and wild, but now his face was etched with a bitter expression. "This madman. Why is our Zhu State Military Martial Academy's luck so rotten? We've run into an overpowered monster right at the start. What's the point of even playing? We just want to coast along and get by." The young man could only force a smile as he addressed Wang Zan. "Hello. I am the team leader of the Zhu State Military Martial Academy team. But before he could finish, he abruptly waved his hand, a ruthless glint in his eyes. 7 people quickly formed a dense formation, aiming to encircle Wang Zan. Clearly, they had decided on their strategy before even stepping onto the stage. If one person couldn't hold him, they would use a group. The goal was to trap Wang Zan in the center of the circle, giving him no room to break free. Shinzayuki. I hope student Wang Zan will offer some guidance and be lenient. As Shinzayuki finished speaking, Wang Zan was finally surrounded, ambushed from all sides. The air was thick with tension, every sound potentially heralding an attack. However, to Shinzayuki's surprise, Wang Zan merely nodded, leisurely observing their formation before asking, "Have you experienced a beast tide? Your formation reminds me of the warriors from the military department. Very powerful." Shinzayuki laughed proudly. "We haven't studied the military department's formations, but it doesn't matter, we have a mentor from the military department. It's a pity that after you left, the mentors didn't think much of your team. What a waste of a spot." The seemingly cold sarcasm didn't affect Wang Zan. He was still smiling, his gaze as bright and unchanged as ever. "Then perhaps you aren't very clear on why the military department mentor came. Or rather, do you remember the military merit I earned in Oceania?" "What military merit?" Naturally, it was the military merit awarded to Wang Zan by the military department for successfully completing the escort mission. It was also around that time that the military department suddenly took action, assigning their soldiers to each Federation Martial Arts Academy team to act as bodyguards or chaperones. Thinking of this, Shinzayuki's eyes narrowed in concentration. He finally remembered, sensing that something was amiss. But Wang Zan wasn't willing to wait any longer. He let out a hearty laugh and strode forward, his advance direct and unflinching. "Enough talk, let me see how well you've trained in your battle formations." In an instant, he was before Shinzayuki. Just as Shinzayuki snapped to his senses, Wang Zan's fist descended, causing the captain's expression to change drastically. Military killing fist. This time, Wang Zan would only use the military killing fist and the necessary essence energy. Everything else was irrelevant. As a result, he appeared calm and unruffled, exuding an air of natural ease and acting as he pleased. However, only Shinzayuki knew that Wang Zan's fist was clearly aimed at the core of his Meridian's operation. If it landed, Shinzayuki would be dead or crippled today, there would be no escape. "You dare!" Shinzayuki roared, his face contorted with fury, but he could only continue to retreat desperately. His roar indeed drew the attention of many in the arena to this duel. Even though 20 teams of students were currently spread across the battlefield, each with their own opponents, in a mere instant, Wang Zan's fight completely stole all focus and attention. Especially Shinzayuki, who was clearly terrified and merely putting on a brave front. The spectators were on the verge of going mad, especially those who looked down on Wang Zan but had some faith in the Zhu State Military Martial Academy. What the hell? Zhu State Military Martial Academy has been on stage for less than a minute. Why are they dodging? Did Wang Zan use some hidden power? What's wrong with that kid? As the captain, why is he retreating without a fight? The military department's battle formations abhor retreat in the face of the enemy. If this were a real battlefield, I'd take his head to rally the troops. Referee, come out. We suspect Wang Zan of cheating, using power beyond the allowed limit. He's almost at the martial master level and still resorting to such despicable tactics. Zhu State needs fairness. The battle needs fairness. A shameless person like Wang Zan must not be allowed to run rampant in this arena. At this moment, the entire venue erupted into a boiling uproar. What? Martial Master? Didn't he join the Zhu State Military Martial Academy less than a year ago? How could he be so fast? In my opinion, Zhu State is clearly too weak and now they're blaming others for being too strong. Wang Zan can slay a grandmaster. Even if he suppresses his power, isn't his control still a testament to his skill? Exactly. This is our young hero. What are you looking at me for? You dare glare at me again? This is the Federation's hero. I clearly saw him use only a tiny bit of essence energy, not even at the level of a level 1 warrior. Are you all blind, or can't you see that? The battle viewing platform instantly descended into a chaotic free-for-all, with heated arguments flying back and forth. Most of those who looked down on Wang Zan were the self-proclaimed elites from prominent families. However, a large portion of underprivileged students from humbler backgrounds within the martial arts academies, almost without exception, stood by Wang Zan. Even if they were fated to face each other in a life-or-death battle later, it didn't stop them from supporting him now. Such a chaotic scene was unprecedented, not just for the referee, but even for Yuntani and the others. Consequently, a message tinged with annoyance was transmitted directly into the mind of Wang Zan's referee. What are you spacing out for? Do you want to be kicked out? Tell them Wang Zan is only using the essence energy of a level 1 warrior and one set of the military department's killing fist. Suppress anyone who objects and get them on stage. They were the deans of the 4 great Federation academies. How could they possibly do something so demeaning themselves? Of course, it was a job for the referee. However, faced with this chaotic scene, even though the officials reacted quickly to coordinate the entire venue, the other 18 Federal Martial Arts Academy teams fighting alongside Wang Zan couldn't take it anymore. They gradually stopped fighting, staring blankly at the surging, frantically shouting crowd on the high platform, their minds in a daze. Are we participating in the Federal Martial Arts competition? Why do I feel like it's a beast-tide invasion? Let's stop fighting. What's the point? I'm not in the mood at all. Better to just watch Wang Zan and his opponents. Just as they all halted, preparing to watch the battle between Wang Zan and the Zhu State Military Martial Academy team. The cause of all this commotion. A high-pitched scream suddenly pierced the air. Ah! Wang Zan, you dare cripple my essence energy. It was Shinzayuki. No one knew what exactly had happened in that instant. They only saw Wang Zan seemingly float towards Shinzayuki like a wisp of smoke, after which Shinzayuki rapidly retreated, causing their previously formed array to completely disintegrate. Only Wang Zan's gaze was somewhat cold, yet his face wore a warm smile as he looked at Shinzayuki and said gently, "How could I cripple you? Don't worry, I just want to make your life worse than death." Behind him, the members of the Zhu State Military Martial Academy team felt a chill creep into their hearts, feeling that Wang Zan had transformed into a veritable demon king. Only Wang Zan heard that one sentence. "Lord 13 asked me to tell you that he misses you." Chapter 165. Can I kill today? Yuan Shizen wasn't dead? Wang Zan's eyebrows furrowed slightly, unsure of what he was thinking. Forget it. Dead or alive, it's best if I never see him again. Otherwise, I'll split him in half once more. After being apart for just 3 days, one should be seen in a new light. Now, Wang Zan wasn't the same powerless boy he'd been when he first met Yuan Shizen. Nor was he the inexperienced and naive Wang Zan from when he first killed a martial general. Even though he disliked Li Chengyuan, he had to admit that the appearance of the blood essence pill had completely changed him. He can fight grandmasters. He can kill grandmasters. This was Wang Zan's current strength, the greatest gift left to him by Wang Yadao. It gave him unwavering confidence. Fearless. As for this Shinzayuki before him, Wang Zan's mouth curled slightly. So what if it's the original organization? As long as they don't dare to show themselves and keep hiding like rats, then one day they're bound to be left eating my dust. Thus, Wang Zan slowly squatted beside Shinzayuki, whose essence energy he had crippled. He looked at Chen's terrified and resentful face and whispered, "Undercover agent?" Shinzayuki swallowed hard, his throat working with difficulty. Then, as if seeing something behind Wang Zan, his face lit up with joy. "Kill him." Unfortunately, Wang Zan remained unmoved. He grabbed Shinzayuki's throat and lifted him, his aura surging powerfully. "Undercover agent, so what? Don't think I can't root you out. If you don't dare to show yourselves, then I'll exterminate you right now." Then, he whipped his head around, his furious glare causing the remaining members of the Zhu State Military Martial Arts Academy team to tremble. We get lost. This is a personal grudge between him and me. If you don't want to die, then surrender, Wang Zan said coldly. Shinzayuki, dangling from his grip, struggled for breath, unable to utter a word, his face turning beet red. Seeing this, the 16 members didn't dare to move. They hadn't killed anyone before, but Wang Zan clearly had. He had killed many, in fact, and had never faced repercussions for it. The Martial Management Bureau couldn't touch him. Of course, Wang Zan didn't know about this, nor did he need to. Li Chengyuan wants to scheme against me? Let him try. We surrender. The Zhu State Military Martial Arts Academy had lost. In a single move, their team captain had fallen into Wang Zan's hands, a prisoner. But the atmosphere in the arena didn't become charged, instead, it grew frigid as they watched Wang Zan. What was he going to do? Was he going to kill someone, blatantly, in front of everyone? At that moment, representatives from the Federation's 4 great academies, the top 100 contestants from the semi-finals, many others who knew him, and mentors from the military department and various martial arts academies, all watched intently, waiting to see what would happen next. Is he a hero of the Federation, or a murderous madman of the Federation? But Wang Zan didn't care in the slightest. He wasn't some damn hero, he was Wang Zan. Immediately, he laughed loudly. Esteemed seniors, may I kill today? He refused to believe those old foxes didn't know what had happened in the arena, or who Shinzayuki truly was. In fact, just as Wang Zan suspected, Yan Tani, Wei Daming, and Mu Dongjun all looked grim. The Zhu State Military Martial Arts Academy was, after all, a top-tier federal martial arts academy, capable of ranking among the top 100. Now, their team captain was clearly a mole for the original organization, a spy from that evil group currently changing its facade. Does this mean that even the Federation's 4 great academies might have sleeper agents from the original organization planted within them? After exchanging a glance, Yan Tani declared loudly, "Killable." His resounding voice seemed to pierce the clouds, its echo lingering around the 3 great beams of the stadium. Thus, everyone heard Yan Tani's thunderous declaration and also saw the deans of the Federation's 4 great academies descending from the stadium roof onto the main platform. Edward had also arrived. For the original organization. "Killable," he affirmed, though he said nothing more, his face impassive, his expression somber and profound. "Killable. Killable." The deans of the Federation's 4 great academies all agreed, Shinzayuki, an undercover agent of the original organization. "Killable." Wang Zan shifted his line of sight, looking down at Shinzayuki, whom he held in his hand. Almost dead but still clinging to a thread of life. He whispered, a hint of a smile playing on his lips, "Original organization? Yuan Shizen? So what? After you die, make sure to tell them it's best not to cross my path." Today, the Federation's 4 great academies had all agreed, he could be killed, he should be killed, he must be killed. Therefore, I'm simply carrying out an order to kill. Besides, I'm a hero of the Federation. As long as people know this guy's identity, then no matter how brutal I am today, I'll still be a hero of the Federation. I might even gain more respect. Wang Zan couldn't help but sigh. It's good to have a favorable reputation. Even if you kill someone, you don't have to pay with your life. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to imagine such things. Back then, even if someone was killed, it had to be done secretively. The body would be dragged to the city outskirts or some corner of the slums, to be destroyed without a trace, dumped in the wilderness. Now, it's much better. Kill as I please. Decisive and satisfying. Only Shinzayuki, despite his flushed face, was now pale with terror and shrieked with all his might, "No." He could still struggle, he still wanted to fight back. The instant the deans of the Federation's 4 great academies agreed Wang Zan could kill, Wang Zan had already made his decision, without a shred of hesitation. However, the spectators, the other contestants on stage, those who had snuck in, everyone, felt as if they'd been struck by a bolt from the blue. Kill? Kill whom? The deans of the Federation's 4 great academies had agreed he could kill. Naturally, the one to be killed must be an enemy of the human race. But this young hero, who had previously only been seen killing in videos, was he now going to kill someone right before their eyes, before these elites of the Federation? They were seeing it with their own eyes, hearing it with their own ears. Was this the hero of the Federation, or an executioner? At this moment, everyone's thoughts became complicated. Henking's expression was somber. He remained silent, just watching Wang Zan quietly. "You're going to kill someone? In front of the entire Federation? Have you even considered the consequences? Even if he's an enemy, some people won't be able to stomach this." Wang Zan had already offended many people. Although he could now fight fiercely enough to kill a Grandmaster, Grandmasters were merely mid to lower tier figures in the Federation. Almost every family with some foundation had several Grandmasters. Yet, what Wang Zan was about to do now struck even Henking as perilous. To be able to infiltrate a martial arts academy means their organization is incredibly powerful and skilled at concealment. By doing this, Wang Zan will make another formidable enemy. Yuan Mengru's eyebrows shot up, her expression turning cold and stern. She was the captain of the Yanjing Martial Arts Academy team and considered the pinnacle of this generation's young martial artists, so she too had killed. But having killed didn't mean one could kill openly and justifiably, nor did it mean one could kill recklessly. Thus, Yuan Mengru's gaze turned icy. She had similar thoughts to Henking but also her own perspective. Why not wait? The deans are all here today. Why do you have to be the one to do it? Wouldn't it be better to leave it to them? Unless you want to force them out. At this thought, Yuan Mengru's heart tightened. It seemed she had grasped a part of Wang Zan's intention. He really wants to force his enemies out into the open, whether they choose to confront him directly or continue lurking in the shadows near him. Can he handle it? He's insane. Wang Zan has gone completely mad. Even legitimate martial arts academy students like Henking and Yuan Mengru found Wang Zan's almost frenzied actions unbelievable, let alone those who had snuck in. At this moment, many people interested in the federal martial arts competition were watching the unfolding scene on their phones. This scene. He's about to tear a living person apart with his bare hands. Now, all focus in the arena was on one point. Meanwhile, the live comment barrage for the broadcast had virtually exploded, with countless arguments and debates erupting. Kill? Can you even kill people in a federal martial arts competition? Isn't Wang Zan a young hero of the Federation? Why do I feel he's more like a thug, a madman now? You're the madman. Your whole family are madmen. Dare to slander the Federation's hero again, and I'll track you down through the internet and give you a beating. Screw you. Come at me if you've got the guts. This is the Federation, not some barbaric society. Who gave him the right to kill? Ha ha ha, is this guy living under a rock? What do you know about the Federation? The ancient era is long gone. Are you still stuck farming in your ancient era backyard? Exactly. This is the era of beasts. Kill. Kill them all. The more you kill, the stronger you get. Tear him apart. Tear him apart. All losers deserve to die. The debate raged on, but the action in the arena had paused. The reporter who had deliberately snuck in to cover Wang Zan was utterly stunned, his mind reeling, a chill creeping through him. He knew the Federation dared to kill, and could kill. Otherwise, ordinary people like them wouldn't have survived to this day, let alone have the chance to become internal energy martial artists. But that's a living, breathing person. He had only ever seen such things in videos before. Now, it seemed he was about to witness firsthand the most gruesome, brutal, powerful, and shocking scene of the human race since the dawn of the Federation era. Who on earth is he? The next moment, even this seasoned reporter, who had witnessed countless horrors and experienced so much, instinctively shut his eyes. His heart trembled as he listened to the blood-curdling scream that tore through the air. Shinzayuki couldn't hold on any longer. Ah! After that one cry, there was only silence. By order, Wang Zan had killed, openly and in public. His arms, like iron pincers, violently tore Shinzayuki, the captain of the Zoo State Military Martial Arts Academy team, in half from the middle. The unprecedented savagery and gore ensured Shinzayuki died with his eyes wide open in horror, yet it only amplified Wang Zan's dominating aura. UGH. He really killed him. Wang Zan actually killed him. Are you all insane? He's one of the Federation's people too. Why kill him? UGH. At that moment, countless students from the academies couldn't help but vomit, their minds reeling in shock, their composure shattered. Wang Zan was the first person to kill so brutally right before their eyes. And Shinzayuki was the first martial artist to die in the arena, setting a bloody precedent for the Federal Martial Arts Competition. Chapter 166, Changes in Zuzhu. A single Shinzayuki might have been insignificant. But Wang Zan's actions had completely twisted the original course of the Federal Martial Arts Competition onto a different path. Someone had died. Furthermore, it was with the approval of the Federation's 4 great deans. The one who died was guilty, but the one who killed was innocent. This completely overturned the existing perceptions of these young martial arts academy students, who were just embarking on their martial arts path. They had originally believed the Federation should be peaceful, with no need for such bloodshed. Yet, they now discovered that, apart from themselves, everyone else, be it Wang Zan, the Federation's 4 great deans, or even many mentors from the military department, remained unfazed, some even nodding in silent approval. Good riddance. Daring to be so arrogant and even managing to infiltrate the Federal Martial Arts Academy. Such people deserve to die. Whether they were part of the original organization or not, the Federation was far from safe, it was plagued by internal and external threats. A single misstep could lead to an irrevocable disaster. The Martial Arts Academy is the bedrock of the Federation. No matter who this internal threat was, their death would be in vain. The Martial Arts Academy, the military department, the great families, corporations. Their reach has grown too extensive. We need to sever some of those grasping hands. They whispered among themselves, thoughts immediately turning to Zhang He, who had attempted to assassinate Wang Zan on the eastern battlefield, and then to the Shinzayuki before them. Who knows how much of the Federation's interests these spies, these hidden vermin, have already usurped. Take Shinzayuki, for example. The Zhu State Military Martial Academy was named after the Zhu family's surname, a testament to their formidable power in that province. Their influence was so immense, so deeply entrenched and arrogantly wielded, that it even surpassed that of the Chu Staging family Wang Zan had previously encountered. And yet, this Shinzayuki was not only a member of the Zhu family but also a student at the Zhu State Military Martial Academy. Both Zhu State and its academy were supposed to belong to the Federation. Indeed. We must make those people understand, and remember forever, what belongs to the Federation cannot be stolen by anyone. It is the Federation that allows them to continue their precarious existence, to live on borrowed time. Humanity will never be enslaved. This was the slogan the Federation had proclaimed, fought for, and died for. Therefore, the Federation possessed ample qualification and legitimacy to claim the fruits of humanity's labor. In other words, Even if these individuals fought, struggled, or perished, they could only do so for the sake of the Federation. This was called orthodoxy, this was called righteousness. He really killed him. Hanking slowly closed his eyes, an inexplicable chill creeping down his spine. He was a year senior to Wang Zan, and his own talent was not insignificant, otherwise, he would never have gained entry to the Federal Military Academy. Yet, compared to Wang Zan now, he felt he truly lacked a certain ruthlessness, a degree of fighting spirit. Captain. Just watch. More people will definitely die today. From this moment on, stop fantasizing that no one will die in the Federal Martial Arts competition. Wang Zan merely set a precedent, but it was bound to come to this eventually. The pressure on the Federation was immense. Those at the top might not be able to withstand it for much longer. Since the Federation's 4 great deans, who wielded considerable autonomy, had already consented to Wang Zan's kill, they certainly wouldn't miss this prime opportunity to intimidate the masses. Martial artists indeed enjoyed the Federation's benefits, status and power could be obtained with ease. However, there was always a price. And the price these students had paid so far was too small. Yuan Mengru also took a deep breath, her expression growing increasingly cold. Leader, he actually killed someone. Are we still in the Federal Martial Arts competition? Why are people dying? Who could have imagined Wang Zan would actually dare to kill? They only wanted to secure a good ranking. Was it really necessary to fight to the death? Wouldn't it be better for everyone to be amicable and conserve their strength to kill beasts? Yuan Mengru looked up at the 4 great deans on the referee stage. Though they didn't usually carry themselves with overt arrogance, their expressions were exceptionally solemn now, creating a palpable distance between them and the crowd. Yet, their attitude towards Wang Zan remained unchanged, their eyes showing no malice or disgust, as if his actions were a trivial matter. Yuan Mengru closed her eyes, then opened them, her voice heavy as she said, "Prepare yourselves. From now on, we fight bloody battles. Not just for first place in the Federation, but for any spot in the top 10, we must be ready to fight to the death. This world doesn't allow one to reap without sowing. If you want resources, then be prepared to die at any moment. Leader. Leader." Everyone wore anxious expressions. Has Leader lost her mind? This could cost us our lives. But at this moment, Yuan Mengru was more somber and detached than they had ever seen her, her gaze fixed intently on their eyes. If you're afraid of dying, then withdraw now. Even if it's just me, it will be difficult, but I will definitely fight to secure a top 10 position for our academy. The worst I'll face is some ridicule. But remember this, even in a fight to the death, as long as the mentors can intervene in time, we won't actually die. However, if you retreat without a fight, setting aside today's events, setting aside the academy, when you face beasts in the future, who can guarantee you'll have the courage to fight then? That's all. No more words. Those who dare to fight to the death, stay. Those who don't, get out. Once you leave, Yanjing Martial Arts Academy will sever all ties with you, forever. She had been to the Star War battlefield, so she naturally understood humanity's situation. Back then, she hadn't even had the chance to truly enter the fray, relegated to skirmishing on the periphery, scavenging for meager gains. Now, she sensed it keenly, these martial arts academy students truly lacked a certain mettle. In the past, it was for this very reason that many Federation students hadn't dared to step onto the battlefield, ultimately being drawn into the Federation's shadowy underbelly. As these thoughts crossed her mind, she noticed Lin Xiaoyan smiling at her. Lin Xiaoyan was from the same cohort as Wang Zan, yet she remained perfectly composed, even more so than Yuan Mengru's own second-year peers. Lin Xiaoyan smiled, took Yuan Mengru's hand, and said playfully, "Cousin, if anyone drops out, can you let me be the substitute? Our dean is so mean, he won't even give me a chance to get on stage." As for the Royal Martial Arts Academy, no one spoke, an unnerving silence hung over them. They quietly watched Wang Zan, who stood in the arena like a blood-splattered demon. They had witnessed the events of the previous night, learning that Wang Zan had slain a martial general right outside the Royal Martial Arts Academy's gates. Because of this, they were, in truth, already prepared to forfeit. He wasn't a warrior, he was a demon cloaked in a warrior's skin. Who knew how much strength he was truly concealing? Meanwhile, on the referee stage. In fact, the 4 deans, who had effectively commandeered the referee stage, were indeed discussing the competition rules. It's merely killing one person. Look at these students. Not a single one of them seems capable. They've never witnessed real bloodshed. We've indeed overlooked a great deal over the years. Surprisingly, the one who spoke this time was Edward. The other 3 looked at him in astonishment, all staring at the blonde, blue-eyed old man, wondering what had gotten into him. Edward knew what they were thinking, though he had no intention of voicing it. Should I tell them I only came to this realization after seeing Wang Zhan and the subtle shifts he's caused within the martial arts academies? You can shelter the young, but coddle them for too long, protect them too fiercely, and they'll turn into losers. Once they're losers for long enough, they become utterly beyond saving. With this thought, he waved his hand dismissively and said with a stoic expression, "Don't look at me. I agree, the tournament rules do need to change. It's acceptable if some die. We don't need to intervene so hastily. Let these youngsters feel some real pressure." The other three nodded, voicing their agreement. This is a good opportunity. It's their first taste of real blood. Even though Shinzayuki was a spy, it doesn't prevent the others from recognizing the brutality involved. If they want resources or renown, they must be willing to put everything on the line. We can also use this chance to investigate how many of these youngsters are spies from the original organization, or pawns of other factions. I'm very keen to know just how deeply those bastards have infiltrated the federal martial arts academies. Alas, we've been remiss. We always believed that simply teaching the students well was sufficient, leaving other matters to the Federation. But the Federation is often too preoccupied, and the President isn't even on Earth. He can't be everywhere at once. After a few minutes of discussion, a decision was finally reached. Yantani slowly rose before everyone, hovering in midair, and addressed them from his commanding position. "Esteemed students, you are all the promising youth of our Federation. However, the Federation's journey to its current strength has had absolutely nothing to do with any of you. To put it bluntly, you are nothing more than a swarm of parasites, feasting on the Federation's lifeblood." The faces of all the martial arts academy students who heard this twitched, their expressions a mixture of awkwardness and indignation. He speaks as if he wasn't once a parasite himself. We are warriors, aspiring martial artists. How can we compare to the pioneers who paved the way? Yet, at this moment, not a single person dared to step forward and refute him. Only Yantani's words reverberated through the arena, echoing endlessly. A corner of Yantani's mouth lifted in a sarcastic smirk as he continued, "Do you believe that because you are still weak, it's perfectly natural for you to leech off the Federation? Perhaps you think that if you were stronger, you could go to the battlefield? That you could unleash slaughter upon our enemies? That you could achieve great military merit for humanity? Well, let me tell you. You are utterly wrong. Don't think about today, don't think about tomorrow, don't even think about what happens after graduation. If you are a parasite for a single day, you will remain a parasite for your entire life." The entire field erupted into an uproar. This Yantani, the old fox, was utterly merciless with his words. Even Wang Zhan, who had been impassively escorted off the platform by his mentor, felt a muscle twitch in his cheek. It's like that old coot is talking directly about me. However, some ignored Yantani's speech from above, their gazes fixed intently on Wang Zhan as he walked past them. Their faces were pale, stomachs churning, on the verge of vomiting. "Wang Zhan, you killed our captain. The Zhou State Military Martial Academy will not let you get away with this." Wang Zhan turned his head, glancing at these few Zhou State Military Martial Academy students. Their skills were clearly uneven, the strongest among them merely a second-level warrior. He let out a disdainful sneer, waved his hand dismissively, and turned to leave. "A bunch of brats who don't even know who's feeding them. Don't stand there spewing nonsense at me, or I won't hesitate to kill again. You." The student now leading them, a second-level warrior, looked as if he was about to lunge forward and attack Wang Zhan. Chapter 167 I'm laughing, the wind is howling. Seeing his aggressive demeanor, resentment and anger ignited in the eyes of the others. "Senior brother, go for it. Senior brother, give him hell. Senior brother." However, despite their shouts, they didn't dare step forward to fight, only cheering from behind. One of them had suddenly ended up behind Wang Zhan. When Wang Zhan turned, he startled the young man, who recoiled, his body tensing. "What do you want?" Wang Zhan roared with laughter, not even bothering to look back this time. "Ha ha ha ha." His laughter, dripping with mockery, was loud enough for many to hear. It even interrupted Yantani's solemn speech from above, drawing everyone's attention to Wang Zhan. "Wang Zhan, what are you laughing at?" Yantani asked, his expression displeased. Wang Zhan raised his head, scanned his surroundings, and sneered. "I'm laughing at this group of losers. They've learned the military department's formations but haven't the faintest idea how to use them, only caring about individual prowess. I'm laughing because they're filled with resentment towards me, yet not a single one dares to make a move. They're all scared witless by that dead Zuzayuki, lacking any of the human race's resolve to fight to the death. I'm laughing at these wastes of space. Senior, why bother with more words? Just tell them, from now on, life and death will be decided not only on the battlefield but in the arena too. You want resources, don't you? You want to become powerful, don't you? You want people to stop seeing you as parasites, don't you? Then go fight. Fight to the death. Fight until you can fight no more. The winners take all, the losers become footnotes in history. This isn't just an internal matter for us humans, it's the reality our human race currently faces. Everyone knows the path ahead is fraught with peril. Why should the burden fall solely on our predecessors? If that's not laughable, then what is? Ha ha ha, a bunch of losers. Wang Zan paid no heed to the thousands in the arena, cursing them indiscriminately as if berating his own disappointing children for not living up to expectations. This time, Yan Tanii chuckled. Nearly every student. From the Royal Martial Arts Academy, the Federal Martial Arts Academy, the Yanjing Military Martial Academy, the Qian Military Martial Academy, the Liang State Military Martial Academy, and more, was enraged by Wang Zan's outrageous tirade. Wang Zan, don't be so arrogant. So you killed a few martial generals? What's there to be proud of? Don't forget, they were members of the human race too. You're slaughtering your own kind. Just wait until I get my hands on you. We'll teach you some manners. Calling a madman like you a young hero of the Federation? Wang Zan, don't forget you're one of us. We're all students, all part of the human race. What makes you think you're so superior? In an instant, a torrent of accusations and furious denunciations rained down upon the lone figure in the arena. Every voice condemned Wang Zan, every heart seethed with resentment and indignation, every mind harbored ill will towards him. Aside from a few who remained silent, Wang Zan had become the undisputed center of attention in the temporary stadium, the target of everyone's ire. Yan Tanii stayed quiet, the old fox subtly faded into the background, eager to see how Wang Zan would handle the situation. Little did they know, Wang Zan had no intention of merely responding, he planned to utterly crush them. They're just a bunch of losers, he thought. Why bother with strategies or tricks? Just kill them. Kill them until they're terrified. So, he stepped forward again, taking nearly 2 more paces. He raised his hands high, surveyed the crowd, and boomed, "You arrogant losers. If you dare to fight, then come down and face me. We'll fight to the death, kill until only one side remains. Come on. All of you, come up here. Today, I'll teach you wastes of space how to truly fight. You want to kill me? I'm standing right here. If you've got the guts, come and try. Otherwise, we fight till dawn. This damn federal martial arts competition should have ended long ago. I will be number 1. Anyone object? Step forward." Seeing Wang Zan, who seemed oblivious to the danger, Yan Tanii felt a surge of delight. Good, he thought. With a willing target for them to focus their fire on, the pressure on me will be significantly reduced. Besides, I'm an old fox, would I miss such an opportunity to fan the flames and steer things to my advantage? He immediately made his presence known again, his voice booming out. Excellent. With individuals like Wang Zan among us in the human race, we should all be celebrating. However, student Wang Zan is indeed too arrogant and domineering. Ultimately, that's not a good thing, so you all need to teach him a lesson. I promise you again, even if he dies in the arena, it will be his own doing, and absolutely no one will be held responsible. So, students, do you dare to fight? Do you dare to fight to the death? His final words, thunderous and rousing, pierced the minds of every student who opposed Wang Zan. Anger, disgust, hatred. A myriad of emotions erupted in that instant. They roared furiously, refusing to yield an inch, their boiling vital energy surging skyward. Dare to fight. Dare to fight. Dare to fight. Fight to the death. Fight to the death. Fight to the death. Nearly 7,000 people were present, and with almost half of them, close to 3,000, roaring in unison, the sheer force of their collective voice was astounding, enough to shake the heavens. Even the fearless Wang Zan felt his expression stiffen, his composure faltering for a moment. That Yan Tanii. He's screwing me over. Wang Zan thought. Isn't he afraid I'll cause trouble for him once I get into Yanjing Martial Arts Academy? Of course, if he tries to prevent me from entering Yanjing Martial Arts Academy, I, Wang Zan, will definitely make trouble for him. One problem piled on another. That's a mountain of trouble. Dare to fight. Dare to fight. Dare to fight. Fight to the death. Fight to the death. Fight to the death. The shouts seethed like a boiling cauldron, the glint of swords seemed to roar. If looks could kill, Wang Zan would have been pierced by a barrage of blades and consumed by a sea of fire. Fortunately, it was only for an instant. Wang Zan, sensing the supercharged atmosphere of the arena, quickly regained his composure, his disdainful smile returning just as Yan Tanii landed beside him. Yan Tanii stood with his back to the crowd, speaking nonchalantly. Kid, you want to get into my Yanjing Martial Arts Academy, right? See those 7,000 people out there? I'll allow you to eliminate all the hidden operatives. The dark seeds. You can identify. Of course, we'll follow up later. So, make sure you don't kill any innocents. You get a quota of 5 mistaken kills, at most. While you're at it, beat them all down. Let them understand what true combat is, and what it means to be a parasite. Oh, I forgot to mention, Edward is over there. If you don't prove you have sufficient value, you might not even last a year. You need to understand this clearly, never give him an opportunity to act against you. If he decides to support you, he'll be your most powerful backing. But if he decides to crush you, he is the sky and the earth of this federation. Yan Tani conveyed this last part to Wang Zan via voice transmission. Wang Zan's smile vanished completely. He became silent and expressionless, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. 5 mistaken kills, all the hidden operatives. And Edward? These people really overestimate me. Do they think I'm made of iron, capable of fighting 7,000 alone? After a moment of thought, Wang Zan asked, can I use my full strength? Yan Tani chuckled. Of course, you can. And the moment you do, we'll swat you dead. Don't worry, it won't hurt. It'll be as easy as squashing a mosquito. Over in a flash. Wang Zan's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything else, though he was cursing inwardly. Forget it. I just can't beat them right now. You old geezers just wait. When I reach the Martial King realm, I'll make you pay. Wang Zan had been on the cultivation path for less than a year, yet he had already reached the peak of the warrior stage and was touching the threshold of the martial master realm. Reaching the martial general rank wouldn't be far off. Once I'm a martial general, becoming a martial king is just the next step. Worst case, I'll rely on the system to muddle my way to the peak of the martial king realm. By then, which martial emperor would be my match? Sigh, still too slow, still too weak. He was unaware, however, that his scathing words, calling them losers and parasites, had thoroughly infuriated many. Among them were Hanking and Shu Yuming, their gazes openly disapproving, Yuan Mengru and Lin Xiuyan, who were grinding their teeth in resentment, and many other martial arts academy students who felt a degree of shame, which only fueled their growing dissatisfaction with him. The only one who seemed pleased was perhaps the reporter who had infiltrated the venue and surreptitiously started a live broadcast. The stream had already exploded in popularity, drawing in countless viewers. If I can solidify this fan base, I could gain several million more followers, the reporter mused. A few more scoops like this, and I'll be a hot commodity. Maybe the boss will even notice me, and I'll have a shot at becoming his son-in-law. Hey, a beautiful future awaits. On the referee stage, Antani had returned to his seat and said with a smile to the other three, that kid Wang Zan certainly has a knack for making enemies. I originally just wanted to stir up their fighting spirit, but now it's escalated to outright hatred. If we fan the flames a bit more, they might genuinely fight to the death. Edward nodded. A fight to the death isn't necessarily bad. As long as we intervene quickly enough, and if that kid Wang Zan can show some restraint, there shouldn't be any major problems. This is a good opportunity. Wei Daming also concurred. He's on the verge of breaking through to the martial master realm. A fierce battle like this might just provide the impetus he needs. Even if these other students don't achieve significant breakthroughs, it's still a net gain. At the very least, they'll have tasted blood and experienced a real fight. They can be considered seeds. After discussing for just 5 minutes, the 4 of them had hammered out a new agenda. Wang Zan's sudden appearance had thrown a massive wrench into the federal martial arts competition, rendering their original plans useless. So, they decided to adapt once more. Even if it meant paying a certain price, they were determined to stoke this fire. Of course, such a course of action would inevitably lead to casualties. But if it's just students dying? After a moment's thought, all 4 agreed. Students, geniuses. Better for them to die here than to become mere fodder on a real battlefield. Yan Taniu stepped forward once more, this time standing formally on a high platform. Jaltai Mountain, as it was known. And announced in a loud voice, from this moment on, the rules for the Federal Martial Arts Competition. Specifically the Team Extra Time Competition. Are hereby changed as follows. The Team Extra Time Competition will now be known as the Military Merit Extra Time Competition. On the fighting stage, a life and death contract is in effect. Life and death will not be questioned. Losers are eliminated. The final victor is the champion. The last 10 remaining alive will be the top 10. Anyone who surrenders, shows cowardice, or avoids battle will be immediately disqualified. Their competition participation, ranking, and rewards will be revoked. Furthermore, their student status, ranking, and rewards at their original martial arts academy will also be revoked, and they will be expelled upon return to their academy. This is to uphold the Federation's spirit of daring to kill, fighting to the death, and never retreating. This drastic change, a blade aimed squarely at cowards and a sword to slay parasites, caused many faces to pale and hearts to pound. Retreat? There was no room for retreat. Anyone who dared to step onto the stage earned the right to remain. Whether they fought, or fought to the death, their place was secured. Victory would crown the champion, while even the defeated who fought bravely would earn respect. But anyone who retreated even half a step would be expelled from their martial arts academy, marking the Federation's most significant shift in policy in decades. On this stage, it was truly fight or die. Chapter 168, Rules Temporary Stadium. Atop a high podium, Yantani continued his impassioned discourse, paying no mind to the crowd's whispers below. As humans, you must be ready to fight to your death. If you can't even do that, you're not worthy of being students at the Federal Martial Arts Academy, and you'd better leave right now. No one from the thousands of martial arts academies in the Federation will stop you. Within an instant, their diverse expressions finally settled into silence, an absolute stillness, like the prelude to dawn or the fuse of an explosion being lit. Who dared to object? Who dared to disagree? Only Wang Zan listened indifferently as Yantani continued his incessant explanation of the rules from the stage. A corner of Yantani's mouth lifted as he chuckled. Very good. Since no one opposes, let's talk about the rewards. This battle is a fight to the death, a battle for military merit. The original rewards are clearly insufficient for your efforts. Therefore, after discussion among us old-timers, we've decided to revoke the original rewards. Instead, the champion will now receive 3 million academic credits, 1 set of level 5 Martial King equipment, and 6 sets of level 8 Grandmaster equipment. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire stadium erupted in shock. Everyone lifted their heads to stare at Yantani, astounded. 3 million academic credits were already extraordinary. That meant at least 400,000 academic credits per person if a team won, enough for them to live without worry through the early stages of Martial Master or even Martial General, allowing them to forge ahead. But Martial King equipment? At this thought, countless fierce individuals hidden among the 7,000 students couldn't help but lick their lips, their eyes practically glowing green. People die for wealth, and birds die for food. If offered enough, a little fighting doesn't seem so bad, does it? Even notable figures like Hanking, Chuyuming, and Yuan Mengru, the 4 great geniuses of the Federation, could not hide their eagerness. An inexplicable anticipation for the upcoming rewards gleamed in their eyes. Even if we can't secure first place, making it into the top 10 wouldn't be a bad outcome. Besides, just because Wang Zan can slay a Grandmaster, does that guarantee he'll be the champion? Not necessarily, right? Even Wang Zan's eyes suddenly flashed with an unusual light, tinged with a certain heat. If this set of equipment falls into my hands, it could probably resist a portion of a Grandmaster's attack, right? As long as I'm not killed in one blow, maybe I can outlast him. Although Wei Daming had already given him a set of Martial King level armor, who would complain about having too much of a good thing? If he wore both sets, Wang Zan could potentially bind a Grandmaster to death. Aside from those few tight-lipped old-timers, no one knew what his bloodline talent was. Naturally, they wouldn't know that his recovery ability had now improved to the point where he could navigate group attacks with relative ease. However, 6 sets of Grandmaster equipment. I wonder if it's armor or weapons. If I take them all, the Chu State Military Martial Arts Academy probably won't gain much this time. Unless I give up my share of the subsequent resource rewards. Wang Zan pondered, needing to think clearly about the distribution. 6 sets of level 8 Grandmaster equipment were no small matter, worth more than 1 billion and truly priceless items with no established market value. Unbeknownst to him, if others discovered that Wang Zan was already calculating how to divide the spoils of war before the battle had even begun, they might have been infuriated to the point of spitting blood. This was especially true for those who seemed to hold a grudge against Wang Zan. Yantani was highly pleased with this effect. Just look at them, all those youngsters had eyes practically glowing green with greed. Even that rascal Wang Zan straightened his spine, his eyes darting around, no doubt scheming some new trick. The second place winner will receive 2 million academic credits, 1 set of Martial King equipment, and 1 set of level 5 Martial General equipment. Damn. Upon hearing Yantani's words, everyone present gasped in disbelief. Unfair. Why is the secondary equipment for first place so vastly superior to second place? It's like a 3-tier difference. Exactly. Although we're only warriors, the difference in our cultivation realms isn't that significant. Why should first place get so much more? We disagree. We oppose this. We want fairness, fairness, fairness. In an instant, the stadium erupted into an uproar. Yantani simply fell silent, his gaze coldly sweeping over these youngsters, his expression growing increasingly stern. It wasn't until some of them seemed to feel his piercing gaze that they slowly shut their mouths, their hearts trembling, faces etched with dejection. They had almost forgotten that this old geezer was one of the most influential figures in the Federal Martial Arts Academy. Although his exact status was unknown, the ability to float midair alone was a privilege of grandmasters. Who knew if he might just kill them outright? After nearly 5 minutes of silence, Yantani finally spoke, his voice booming in everyone's ears, deafeningly clear. This isn't some children's game we're playing. This is a battle for military merit, a fight to the death. It's the first time the Federal Martial Arts Academy has ever permitted life-or-death duels in the arena. Is it unfair? If anyone thinks it's unfair, then fight your way to the top. Fight until you're the champion, until no one dares to challenge you. What is fairness? Strength is fairness. Otherwise, you're all just parasites, spineless parasites who can never stand tall. Don't tell me you're just students, just warriors. If you lack the ability, the confidence, the determination, then don't waste your breath in front of me. Say one more word, and this old man will send you straight to the battlefield. Those who survive can come back and talk to me about fairness. The voices gradually died down. Who still dared to speak of unfairness? Time slowly passed, like the gentle chime of a wind bell. Soon, all the new rewards under the new rules were announced. Among them, first place, rewarded with 1 set of Martial King equipment and 6 sets of Grandmaster equipment. Second place, rewarded with 1 set of Grandmaster equipment and 6 sets of Martial General equipment. Third place, rewarded with 1 set of Martial General equipment and 6 sets of Martial Master equipment. The reward structure was a clear inverted pyramid. It was no wonder some called it unfair. This was a true test of strength. The more one fought and won, the stronger they'd become, and the better equipped. The ultimate victor would claim everything, especially the invaluable Martial King equipment. A priceless treasure with no public market. However, for those ranked below second place, the rewards dropped off dramatically. Particularly for those ranking from 4th to 10th, the rewards consisted only of academic credits, which were pathetically small and uniformly distributed. This distribution arrangement made even Wang Zan involuntarily lick his dry lips. He knew the path ahead would be arduous. He could feel the tense atmosphere, thick with anticipation even before the battle began, like sitting on a powder keg. He even began to doubt himself. Can I really win the championship? Or will I be crushed to dust by countless unforeseen tactics and lose my chance completely? Madness. Everyone was going mad. Not only the students, but also the mentors, the officers from the military department, and the members of the media who had managed to get in. All were staring at Yantani on the stage with burning eyes. Damn it. Why didn't we have things like this back in our day? At most, we were rewarded with some substandard martial general equipment, and that was considered hitting the jackpot. They all looked enviously at the youngsters sitting near them, feeling it was such a waste. How wonderful would it be if those resources were bestowed upon them instead? If I had a set of Martial King equipment, I would have immediately challenged that low-rank Martial King. I'd fight for tens of millions in military merit. Would I be this destitute today if I had it? Nonsense. If I had Martial King level equipment, forget a low-rank Martial King, I'd dare to challenge even a Termination Martial King. Those bastards, human in form but traitors to humankind, colluding with beasts. Who knows how many treasures they've hoarded. Muffled voices continued their hushed discussion, their gazes growing increasingly fervent. This wasn't some consumable item, it was far more practical than mere academic credits and could literally be a lifesaver. In comparison, the rewards beyond second place seemed utterly insignificant. You all know the rewards now. Next, let's discuss your combat objective. In a battle for military merit, what matters is the damage you inflict upon the enemy, your team's coordination, and your ability to land the decisive blow. So, I expect you to cooperate effectively. There is only one target. Yantani's voice suddenly soared with intensity. Repel Wang Zan. Kill Wang Zan. Or, render him incapable of further combat and force him from the battlefield. Wang Zan's face instantly darkened. Just as I'd suspected, these old schemers had malicious intentions. Damn it, the allure of the first-place rewards was so overwhelming that it made all subsequent rewards seem trivial. What were Grandmaster equipment, Martial General equipment, or academic credits in comparison? With diligence, hard work, and effort, surely as students of the Federal Martial Arts Academy, they possessed that much ability and talent? But Martial King equipment. If Wang Zan truly became a stumbling block for everyone, could he expect any peace? He'd be dreaming. Undoubtedly, Wang Zan could already feel countless malicious and piercing gazes fixed on him, all from the students on the battle-viewing platform whose minds were clouded by greed. This forced Wang Zan to instinctively duck his head slightly, murmuring, I feel like I've forgotten something. What could it be? Then, Yantani continued, Wang Zan, level 10 warrior. Military killing fist, a foundational fist art of the military department. Decisive and shockingly brutal, comparable to an Earth-level martial skill. Ancient 8 Extremes Fist, excels at barging through with overwhelming force, comparable to a heavenly-level martial skill. Fatal 1 Slash, specializes in a life-risking, all-or-nothing strike aimed at mutual destruction, comparable to a peak heavenly-level martial skill. A self-created fist art prototype, excels at overpowering opponents with sheer presence, aggressive charges, and targeting vital points. Comparable to a king-level martial skill. Silently, the corners of Wang Zan's mouth curled into a slight smile. He finally remembered what he had forgotten. Who was he? He was Wang Zan. The Wang Zan who could fight and defeat grandmasters, the Wang Zan who could even spontaneously create a killing move from his martial foundations, a move that not even a grandmaster could escape. With such terrifying capabilities, how could he possibly be intimidated by these fledglings? What a joke. A smile that seemed sheepish but was laced with blatant provocation played on Wang Zan's lips. He met the thousands of gazes fixed upon him, a hint of smugness in his heart as he thought, "That's right, it's me. You heard correctly, the old man is talking about me." At the same time, a flicker of understanding dawned on him. The old man's decision to reveal all this information so openly couldn't be merely to intimidate everyone or simply make them aware of his true strength. There had to be more to it. Chapter 169, First Battle. In other words, can I go all out? Wang Zan grew even more composed. If I can go all out, then aside from those undying old geezers and those in the classroom who've actually been on a battlefield, everyone else here is just average. So average. What's there to be afraid of? Haha. This is a piece of cake. Yan Tani seemed to notice the mischievous smile playing on Wang Zan's lips. He smiled too, a profound, meaningful smile, his eyes growing even deeper. Therefore, you can all go all out. Use any means necessary. As long as you defeat Wang Zan and survive until the end, we will naturally adjust the rankings accordingly and give you opportunities to contend for higher positions later. Of course, if you all lose, then there's no need to compete for the championship. As for Wang Zan. At this point, he met Wang Zan's gaze and said calmly, "You cannot use any of the aforementioned martial arts. Other than that, there are no restrictions. Prepare to draw lots. This military merit competition will not be interrupted until a champion is decided." Wang Zan was dumbfounded. Damn it. The competition hasn't even started, and you old-timers are already tying my hands and feet. How am I supposed to fight? Why don't I just surrender? Do you really expect me to use an iron headbutt to crack their skulls one by one? Even Hanking and the others looked at Wang Zan with peculiar gazes, whispering, aside from these techniques, does he actually have another trump card? Although a level 10 warrior is the dividing line between a warrior and a martial master, it's still just a quantitative stage, not an invincible one. Yuan Mengru, however, was rather gleeful at his misfortune, almost bursting into laughter. Despite this, her face still held a hint of wicked amusement. Good riddance, kid. Now you can't use anything. Let's see how you fight now. Humphrey. If you're so capable, then break through to Marshal General. Otherwise, they could just wear you down with sheer numbers. Wear down? At this thought, Yuan Mengru's expression suddenly froze, and then a faint blush crept across her cheeks. No one knew what exactly she was thinking, and in any case, no one could see it. One thing was certain, having suffered considerably at Wang Zan's hands and been taken advantage of by him numerous times, she would not let this golden opportunity pass. Thus, the initially silent atmosphere on the field shifted once more, as if fortunes had completely reversed. One moment, everyone, including Wang Zan himself, felt they were no match for him, and he had started to gloat. The next, Wang Zan was bound hand and foot by those old geezers, unable to move, his face dark. Now it was their turn to revel in his misfortune, believing a great opportunity had arrived. Wang Zan also knew the current situation had indeed become somewhat awkward. While his shortcomings had been shored up a little, meaning he wouldn't be finished as quickly as before, it wasn't enough. But now, the opposition clearly intended to use a war of attrition. 7,000 people in total. Even if each one was as weak as a cabbage, facing 7,000 cabbages would make Wang Zan's hands go soft from exhaustion. Although 900 martial arts academy teams had already been eliminated, meaning most no longer had a chance to compete, just 700 opponents would be enough to run Wang Zan ragged. Of course, the rewards were also very generous. Aside from the Chu State Military Martial Academy, almost every other academy had received a good number of points. A single victory would yield 1,500 points. If he kept winning, Wang Zan could accumulate 150,000 points, accounting for more than half of the total available. Following the standard progression, Wang Zan could win 70 to 80,000 points. Added to his existing points, if he surpassed 100,000, he would essentially hit the point cap. Moreover, There would be no rest for him this time. Others could rest. During this war of attrition, they would fight according to the drawn order. If someone ahead defeated Wang Zan, those scheduled later could simply revert to the normal tournament process. The rewards were higher, and they wouldn't lose out. So why not go for it? If no one could defeat Wang Zan, the later a team faced him, the greater their advantage. They would be well fed, well rested, and full of mental power, while Wang Zan would be subsisting on air, utterly exhausted. The gap would only widen. Thinking of this, Wang Zan's brow furrowed slightly. How am I supposed to handle this? I can't use any martial arts. If I rely solely on my physical body, I could probably manage to crush them for a while, but there's a limit. He knew those old men were probably scheming to have him advance under pressure. After all, he was only one step away. But the conditions were too harsh. For now, he could only take it one step at a time. Maybe I should just crush the initial martial arts academy teams, then fight a war of attrition in the middle, and go all out in the latter half. While Wang Zan was contemplating his strategy, the selection for the lot drawing on the field had already been decided. The 1,000 martial arts academies finished drawing lots one by one. First match, Wang Zan from the Chu State Military Martial Academy versus the U State Military Martial Academy team. This was a martial arts academy team ranked in the lower middle tier among the federal martial arts academies. Their total score from the overtime matches was 2,000 points. Although not weak, they were clearly one of the lowest ranked teams. This could be considered good luck for Wang Zan. However, for the U State Military Martial Academy, it wasn't such good news. If they lost, they would immediately lose their qualification for subsequent participation, be ranked at the bottom, and receive no rewards. Therefore, every one of them came with a do-or-die attitude. Yantani would arrange for personnel to assess their points, and factors like teamwork, offense, and decisive finishing abilities would all influence the point calculation. This meant that as long as they put up a good fight, even if they lost, the U State Military Martial Academy wouldn't lose face and might even see their ranking rise a few spots. As these thoughts ran through his mind, the initially gloomy and apprehensive mood of the U State Military Martial Academy team captain completely calmed upon seeing Wang Zan for the first time. He displayed the composure expected of a martial arts academy student. Wang Ping, captain of the U State Military Martial Academy team, pays his respects to student Wang Zan. I hope student Wang Zan will be merciful. Wang Zan glanced at the U State Military Martial Academy team. Each member wore a resolute expression, completely unmoved by Wang Zan's strength or the martial arts Yantani had previously revealed. Although Wang Zan's expression remained impassive, he felt a slight tension inwardly. Their individual skills might be average, but their coordination is excellent. At the very least, I can sense a tight, almost suffocating pressure from them. Ah, so we share a surname? That makes things easier to discuss. However, I'm currently bound hand and foot by those old geezers, so student Wang Ping, please don't be too harsh. Wang Ping smiled faintly. Student Wang Zan, you jest. Formation. One moment he was smiling and greeting Wang Zan, the next, he was going all out, focused and prepared. The atmosphere on the field instantly tensed, his face taking on a hint of solemnity. Undoubtedly, the U State Military Martial Academy was truly prepared to use a sledgehammer to crack a nut, treating Wang Zan as a life-and-death enemy. Upon hearing Wang Ping order the formation, Wang Zan abruptly retreated a step. Boom. A small crater instantly appeared where he had stood. This was caused by the weapons each member of the U State Military Martial Academy team possessed. 7 linked hammers. Almost instantly, it was as if a heaven and earth net had descended, aiming to tightly envelop Wang Zan. Although Wang Zan's prediction was extremely accurate, even as he retreated, he was still swiftly surrounded by the 7, unable to advance or retreat. The U State Military Martial Academy, despite its bottom-tier ranking, clearly possessed considerable strength. On the referee stage, gazing at Wang Zan, who was constantly dodging and weaving, somewhat flustered under the relentless assault of the linked hammers, all 4 individuals nodded. They were clearly not focused on Wang Zan, but rather on the coordination of the U State Military Martial Academy team, their eyes shining with appreciation. Even as Wang Zan was forced to shamelessly yell, "Don't hit my face. Damn it. It's just a championship and some martial king equipment. If you disfigure me, how am I supposed to live?" Perhaps they felt a bit awkward. The linked hammers had indeed struck Wang Zan's pretty boy face and his lower body numerous times. Wang Ping could only reply with a comment that made the spectators roar with laughter. Never mind, never mind. Aim carefully. Stop hitting his lower body, just go for his face." Hearing this, Wei Daming said softly, "The U State Military Martial Academy is quite good. This coordination could allow their ranking to advance a bit. The higher the rank, the more resources one receives. This is the rule of the Federation. Undoubtedly, Wang Ping had correctly guessed the intentions of the four old masters Aos. Wasn't it all about coordinated attacks and decisive blows? Although Yu State was a bit weak, they never fell short when it came to cooperation. Use them as Wang Zan's whetstone? They didn't mind at all. As long as there were resources, they wouldn't even mind calling someone dead. It's related to the environment in Yu State. Most other martial arts academies are too comfortable, they don't even dare to venture deep into the wilderness. Without a place to hone themselves, they naturally can't produce true warriors. That's true as well. Everyone nodded, well aware of the origin of Yu State's linked hammers. Yet, this level of cooperation still surprised and pleased them. They had finally seen some outstanding martial arts academy students. This time, let's allow the Yu State Military Martial Academy's ranking to move up a bit. It's not easy for them, the students they cultivate aren't even enough to fill the local shortfalls. The four of them said no more, all approving of this plan. Then, they turned their gazes back to Wang Zan. After his initial helplessness, Wang Zan quickly adapted to the Yu State Military Martial Academy's fighting style. Although he couldn't counterattack yet, he was already looking for an opening to do so. In fact, even if the old geezers didn't say it, the students knew. These old fellows were definitely thinking of using them to help Wang Zan break through and hone his skills. But it didn't matter. The rewards were ample, and no rules were being broken, so no one would care. Hopefully, this kid is smart enough. Even though he can't use martial arts, when we martial artists first started, all we relied on were our own two fists. That's right. His agility, reflexes, and predictive abilities are all very good. It seems that experience on the death battlefield truly gave him a lot. If he can fully internalize it, then relying purely on technique and judgment, his abilities would be comparable to some decent martial arts. It can't be helped, his starting point was too high. That kid is no simple character either. Otherwise, the control techniques of Fatal 1/ wouldn't have become part of his foundation so quickly. Everyone agreed on this point. However, they also believed that having too high a starting point wasn't necessarily a good thing. Perhaps Wang Zan realized this. He wanted to find a solution from the four mentors, but what mentor could be a better teacher than actual combat? Chapter 170 Yu State Military Arts The spacious temporary stadium. Everywhere, eyes were filled with attention, concern, and curiosity. Aside from occasional furrowed brows or slight changes in expression, everyone was intensely focused on the first round of battle after the rules change. Wang Zan vs Yu State Military Martial Academy. Caught in a trap, Wang Zan had no mind to pay attention to whatever schemes those few old masters Aos were concocting. Whoosh! A flying hammer smashed directly toward his face. Just as he dodged, another hammer came flying, causing him to grit his teeth in irritation. Damn it, how many times have I told you, don't aim for the face? Unfortunately, this bunch from the Yu State Military Martial Academy, though they appeared approachable, transformed completely on the battlefield, becoming decisively ruthless. Even with Wang Zan's current basic attributes of 3,300 points, he felt somewhat overwhelmed. Although Wang Ping was from the same clan, he was ruthless in his attacks. Besides being thick-skinned and cold-hearted, perhaps the only trait Wang Zan possessed that Wang Ping lacked was modesty. Wang Ping coughed lightly again, casually organizing his formation. He retracted the chain hammers he had just used in a sneak attack and said neutrally, "Student Wang Zan, you heard him. That old man. Ahem, that senior said you were a level 10 warrior. We had no choice, we were too scared to disobey. We probably wouldn't be able to withstand a single punch from you." Wang Zan's heart shattered. You believe whatever he says? When did I become a level 10 warrior? If what he said was true, then I'd be a grandmaster by now, believe it or not. Old masters Aos are all despicable. The cuter and friendlier they appear, the more rotten they are to the core. I'm just a level 8 warrior who hasn't made that final step yet. Just a little bit more. Do you really need to pursue me so relentlessly? Thinking this, Wang Zan quickly executed a roll and dodged 3 more flying hammers. 2 were from Wang Ping's teammates from the Yu State Military Martial Academy, and the last one was a sneak attack from the treacherous Wang Ping himself. He realized that these kids, although not exceptionally talented, 4 of them hadn't even reached the warrior realm, and the rest were all level 1 warriors. Had a perfectly coordinated strategy. As Wang Zan moved, they constantly adjusted, determined to trap him within their encirclement. 4 martial artists were responsible for creating diversions, while 3 warriors launched distracting attacks. Winning against a stronger opponent seemed to be an instinct for them. Wang Ping remained unconcerned, acting as if he wasn't the one who had just attacked. Still serving as the core of the formation, he kept his eyes fixed on Wang Zan and chuckled. We can't help it, we haven't seen much of the world. So our teachers specifically instructed us that when we go out, We must listen to our elders, or we'll be the ones to suffer. Whoosh! The formation tightened. Wang Ping launched another attack at Wang Zan, which narrowly grazed him. If this continued for a little longer, Wang Zan would no longer be able to dodge and would have to face the attacks head-on. Damn it, you old cunning man. Wang Zan cursed under his breath. He had now truly witnessed this kid's shamelessness. It was every bit as bad as his own, if not worse. If he weren't restricted from using lethal martial arts and could only employ evasive footwork or grappling techniques, Wang Zan would have taught him a proper lesson. Fortunately, his wisdom, having reached 100 points, allowed Wang Zan to figure out a way to break the blockade in this short amount of time. Either I directly overwhelm him with power and force that kid Wang Ping out, or I attack the truly weak spots. Those few martial artists. As for those two warriors, it's best not to engage them unless necessary, otherwise, Wang Ping might return to help. Wang Zan also realized that these kids had definitely seen real combat before. Their current state wasn't even their peak performance, this was just a spar, a battle where they could advance or retreat. It seemed Yun Tani had ordered them to fight to the death, but clearly, the Federal Martial Arts Academy couldn't influence their decisions. This was their confidence, the confidence stemming from a veteran army. However, they didn't know that even if Wang Zan was just an insignificant warrior, when picking the tallest among the short, Wang Zan was a true giant, capable of holding up a piece of the sky. As Wang Zan maneuvered, his eyes suddenly glinted as more details fell into place. Are they actually going easy on me? Are they waiting for me to adapt? Interesting, very interesting. Who would have thought that a small institution like the U State Military Martial Academy could possess such formidable strength? Even though Wang Zan was clearly far superior to them, he was still surrounded like a trapped beast. Hanking's eyes flashed as he connected more dots. The U State Military Martial Academy. Although it hasn't received many resources from the Federation, nor has it produced many geniuses, its geographical location is exceptionally advantageous. With a small gap in individual strength, they can cooperate more seamlessly. This is what it means to fight to the death without retreating. They, the four grades, also had missions even grander than those of smaller military martial academies like U State. But it shouldn't be forgotten that the resources they received were beyond what these smaller military martial academies could even dream of. Effort yields reward. However, apart from high-end power, places like U State contributed more than the four greats. Federal Martial Arts Academy. Chu Yuming stood with his arms crossed, looking down imperiously at the ongoing battle, his expression unreadable. A mentor stood behind him. Yuming, you need to be more careful. Chu State Military Martial Academy, U State Military Martial Academy. There are too many variables this time. Once they acquire more resources, they will undoubtedly close the gap between us much faster. The slightly chubby Chu Yuming abruptly turned his head, his tone harsh. If you don't want to shut up, I can have someone help you. Yuming. Scram. The Federal Martial Arts Academy is not the private property of the Chu family, nor is it a treasure trove for you lot. It belongs solely to the Federation, and its resources belong to the Federation. No one can interfere. What about Chu State Military Martial Academy or U State Military Martial Academy? The stronger these academies become, the stronger the Federation's four greats will be. I don't deny that the four greats derive their prominence from these academies, but I don't want to see your short-sightedness anymore. So what if they're powerful? Without pressure, where's the motivation? If it weren't for that kid Wang Zan not being strong enough, I would willingly lose to him, even if it meant being bedridden for half a month. Chu Yuming spoke in a deep voice. Despite being just a warrior, he didn't back down in the slightest when facing a mentor at the level 9 martial master realm. Instead, he appeared even more domineering. Upon hearing Chu Yuming's words, this Grandmaster's expression changed drastically. Yuming, you mustn't think like that. If we lose, the Federation's four greats could fall from their pedestal. This madman, Chu Yuming, actually wants Wang Zan to completely defeat the Federation's four greats, causing immense loss of face for those of us leaders who confidently direct the Federation's course. But is this merely a matter of face? This is a disaster, a nightmare, a disgrace. Little did the mentor know, Chu Yuming merely sneered, turned his head back, and resumed watching the unfolding events in the arena without another word. Yanjing Martial Arts Academy. Yuan Mengru grew even more serious, leaning motionlessly against the railing, her gaze fixed on the U State Military Martial Academy's formation. These guys. Am I really the ceiling for this generation of young people? She wondered with self-deprecation. Wang Zan was about to launch his counterattack, but as he did, a palpable scent of blood filled the air. It was like a wolf, hidden beneath a harmless guise, now coiled on the arena stage, eyeing Wang Zan hungrily. Yuan Mengru even doubted that if she were in his place, she might lose the courage and ability to counterattack before even getting the chance to prepare one. She even saw blood seeping from Wang Zan's body. It was from when he attempted to strike Wang Ping, only to be met by the swift intervention of Wang Ping's team members. All 7 flying hammers had struck him, almost without exception. Not a single one of them retreated. This is a true fight to the death. Phew. Lin Xiaoyan exhaled softly, her expression grave as she watched the developments in the arena. They were truly fighting for their lives. She, too, had fought for her life during a beast tide. Her family background had also led her to fight for her life in confinement or on a fighting stage. However, she suddenly felt that those experiences were so insignificant compared to the breathtaking scene before her. If she were the one in the arena, would she possess the courage to resist, knowing full well that resistance was futile? Thus, her expression grew increasingly complex. Sis, I suddenly feel like our teachers and our families have protected us far too well. Who could argue with that? Damn it. Wang Zan cursed as he dodged several flying hammers. These guys were all too insidious, definitely corrupted by Wang Ping. Wang Zan almost suspected this kid was also of Wang Yudao's ilk, otherwise, how could he be as cunning as himself? The timing was too precise, targeting the exact moment I was preparing to counterattack. If I hadn't dispersed the force in time, it would have been much more serious than minor injuries. And to top it off, this is only the first match. Thinking this, Wang Zan immediately increased the distance between them, his mind as calm as still water. He began to get truly serious. I won't make a move unless I have to, but when I do, it must be decisive, enough to completely crush this cunning serpent, Wang Ping. To their surprise, at Wang Zan's call, the team members immediately dispersed. Though they still kept Wang Zan surrounded in the center, they gave him a moment to recover and catch his breath. Wang Ping then said with a serious expression, Student Wang Zan, I know that none of us are your match. If you were to go all out, I'm afraid none of us could escape this. Wang Zan looked astonished. What is this kid up to? Is he trying to play the emotional card? However, his skill bred confidence, and he wasn't afraid of such tactics. He laughed heartily. You're overthinking it. I'm really just an ordinary warrior. Don't listen to that old master Zhao, Yantani, spouting nonsense. People can die from that. Wang Ping smiled faintly and didn't address the comment. Therefore, we gave you time to adapt, hoping that when we fight with all our strength, you might also show some mercy. In fact, we are not doing this for ourselves, but for our martial arts academy. Speaking to this point, Wang Ping's expression turned slightly solemn, and he said seriously, Next, please give it your all, Student Wang Zan. If you still can't hold back, then even if we die, it is what we deserve. Life and death are decided on the sparring stage. We, the U State Military Martial Academy, are willing to be the vanguard for everyone here. The so-called vanguard serves as a model, an example. It seemed the U State Military Martial Academy had already decided to take the lead. However, Chapter 171, Humanity, Never Be Enslaved. Who could have expected that after Wang Zan had tangled with them for so long, with the arena floor shockingly scarred, both sides had merely been feigning, holding back their true strength to stage such a grand spectacle. Wang Zan sensed the shift in their auras. A touch of grim resolve, the scent of blood, and a profound weight that settled in his heart. How similar this was to his friends from the eastern battlefield, the ones who had lost limbs in the fighting. Even when facing death, even when their survival was uncertain, even when the future was unknown, even with so much reluctance, they could not retreat a single step. There was only death, only to die fighting. Wang Zan's back slowly straightened. He gradually closed his eyes and ears, and a smile on his face vanished completely, his expression turning solemn and merciless. Suddenly, he scanned his surroundings, his gaze falling upon the 7 fine young men of the U State Military Martial Academy team, and then he roared. Humans will never be slaves. Wang Ping also roared, Humans will never be slaves. Humans will never be slaves. Humans will never be slaves. It was not the voice of one person, but of 7, then 70, then what sounded like 7,000. At this moment, everyone in the temporary stadium truly understood the meaning of a life and death battle on the stage. It wasn't that they wouldn't die, but that they could die. No one could guarantee their own survival. To obtain a piece of martial king equipment, one had to risk their fragile life. Only with great sacrifice could there be great reward. If their previous exchanges had been mere sparring, filled with playful taunts and flashes of anger, then from this moment on, it was a true confrontation, with no possibility of retreat, not even half a step. Therefore, upon the stage where roars of defiance boiled and the will to fight to the death burned fiercely, Wang Zan was finally the first to act. He charged forward without reservation, relentlessly. If the U State Military Martial Academy team didn't want to die, they could only fall by his hand. That was the only way he could show mercy, otherwise, he would be the one to die. Kill. He didn't want to die, and he wouldn't. Therefore, the U State Military Martial Academy team had to. Military killing fist. Wang Zan bellowed, decisively breaking the prohibition Yun Tanii had established. Since it was a battle to the death, what did methods, rules, or restrictions matter? Any fist that could kill was a good fist. The military killing fist was the military department's sharpest, most lethal technique. Kill. Wang Ping refused to be outdone. Almost simultaneously, the auras of the seven erupted, their intent becoming murderous and decisive, all pretense of mercy gone. 3 warriors took the lead, forming the vanguard to block Wang Zan's charge, fearless of death. Behind them, 4 other warriors began to maneuver, their chain hammers linking together. If Wang Zan was contained, it would be manageable. But if he truly broke through their formation, this web of chains would be the heaven and earth net to intercept him and drag him back into the deadly embrace of the battlefield. At this moment, the roars continued to surge. The stadium throbbed with adrenaline, passion, and the unyielding resolve to face death. Even Yuan Mengru and Lin Xiaoyan, the 2 women, were shouting at the top of their lungs, their voices unwavering, words tumbling from their lips, their hearts pounding relentlessly. Humans will never be slaves. Humans will never be slaves. On the stage, life and death hung in the balance. From the sidelines, a battle hymn arose. Even the reporter, no longer caring that he had snuck in, openly took out his recording device, placed it before everyone, and acclaimed in a resonant voice, "Do you gentlemen still remember? 72 brave men of the human race, slaughtering on the green stone platform. Do you gentlemen still remember? 18 heroes of the human race, meeting their deaths in Jing State. Do you gentlemen still remember? 28 leaders of the human race, fallen in battle beyond the stars. Today, we shall witness it again, the young sons of the human race, fighting for victory on the battlefield. No retreat, no surrender, only death or glory. This is the human race. What does dissent matter? They do not retreat unless they die in battle. You harbor treachery? I offer my life. Either you will reap the turbulent mortal world, or the human race will send you to your grave. Those of the human race who die on the battlefield, those who slay beasts, those who bravely meet their end, those whose spines stand tall and unbent. Their numbers are greater than the grains of sand in the Ganges River. Kill. 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 The 3 closed in, neither evading nor retreating. Wang Ping and his team had no attention to spare for the commotion offstage, and neither did Wang Zan. His gaze was firm, cold, and merciless. His fists were like azure dragons, his feet like soaring flood dragons. Heedless of anything else, he advanced step by step, trampling the green grass, determined to cut down the enemy before him. Die. Wang Zan roared, his military killing fist striking out like a dragon, smashing directly onto a flying hammer. He paid no heed to his own flesh and blood, sending the hammer flying, its wielder unable to hold on. Wang Ping knew Wang Zan was formidable, but he had never imagined he could be so ferocious as to send a warrior's weapon flying with a single punch. Seeing the torn flesh and seeping blood on Wang Zan's fist, Wang Ping's heart clenched. He shouted sharply, "Abandon the encirclement. Everyone forward. Don't give him any room to maneuver." Previously, when Wang Zan hadn't been fighting with true ferocity, they could handle him with ease, like a cornered beast. But now that Wang Zan was serious, the U State Military Martial Academy's formation could no longer contain him. Despite 7 flying hammers whirling through the air, Wang Zan still managed to seize the initiative, forcing one of their main fighters into a mere supporting role, only able to harass him. Who could guarantee Wang Zan wouldn't consolidate his gains even faster? In fact, Wang Zan did just that. Even with the hammers dancing in the air, he fixed his gaze on one, ignoring the wound on his palm, and snatched at it. He said coldly, "Give it to me." Bang! A martial artist was dragged stumbling forward by Wang Zan, yet he stubbornly refused to let go of his weapon. But Wang Zan, seemingly possessed and utterly heedless, used the captured flying hammer to ensnare the others. With a hard tug, he roared with laughter. "You can't stop me. It's time for this to end. Yes, it's time for this to end. If this drags on, someone will surely die." Because, with Wang Zan's sudden explosive burst of speed, the heaven and earth net formed by the flying hammers was rendered useless. That martial artist was dragged right to his side, and then Wang Zan kicked him viciously in his soft abdomen. Thump! A figure was sent flying. There were no screams, only the warrior's face, contorted in agony. Release. Seeing the situation, Wang Ping knew Wang Zan had seized the advantage too quickly, disabling the flying hammers. Without hesitation, he made a decisive choice and let go. Then, he charged forward once more, aiming for close combat while Wang Zan was momentarily disengaging from the hammers. One charged out, while 6 others closed in, their battle cries shaking the heavens. Kill! Kill! Kill. 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 Would they lose? Of course, they would. Wang Zan still had so many trump cards. Since he had forcibly broken Yun Danny's rules, the life and death duel had become a no-holds-barred fight. So, if they continued, someone might die. And Wang Ping hoped it would be him. Wang Zan swiftly surveyed his surroundings. They were closing in from all directions. 3 martial artists, 3 warriors, each one brave, fighting to the death without retreat. The tangled mess of flying hammers in his hand was now ignored by everyone. Wang Zan let it drop without a care and shouted, "Military killing fist." The focus of the attack was Wang Zan himself, as if it were soldier against soldier, general against general. A sinking feeling struck Wang Ping. A brilliant azure armor materialized around him. His face set with determination, he roared, "Seven Wolves' Fist." Like bared fangs, like striking claws. The so-called Seven Wolves' Fist was a technique meant to kill, a fist that decided life and death. And Wang Ping launched it with no thought for his own defense. "If I'm going to die, I'll take you down with me." Finally, with a deafening boom, a flurry of fists rained down on Wang Zan's body and back, each landing with a sickening thud. The arena, moments before filled with roaring sound, fell into a deathly silence. Pop. In a corner only Wang Zan could hear, the system's interface flickered and changed. Strength, 3,301 agility, 3,301 physique, 3,301 charm, 240 wisdom, 100 mental power, 9,600. Wang Zan had completely shattered the level 9 boundary. This time, he hadn't relied on the system. Instead, he was growing stronger through combat, achieving success in this one battle. When he opened his eyes again, barely a breath later, they shone as brightly as guiding beacons. Wang Ping, who was right before him, was the first to notice the change in Wang Zan. Wang Zan's aura has changed again. He is getting stronger. What we saw before wasn't his full power. He was about to roar a warning, to tell everyone to fall back. But he had no time. The only response was a dull, heavy impact. "You lose. Your realm is too weak. You could only be defeated by me." One of Wang Ping's core teammates, a student at the warrior realm, was sent flying by Wang Zan's savage kick to the stomach. Utterly unable to resist, he was thrown backward, the tremendous force of the blow dragging him across the green grass, leaving a shallow trench. His face was deathly pale. "You!" Wang Ping roared, understanding dawning. "When Wang Zan exchanged blows with me, he was using a feint. I wasn't his target. The others were." However, Wang Zan merely offered a faint, chilling smile, his movements never pausing. He clapped a hand on Wang Ping, brutally hauled him up, and used him to sweep across the arena. "Admit defeat. Kill. Fight to the death." Wang Ping bellowed. Who could have imagined that in a mere instant, Wang Zan could completely turn the tables? His aura is even stronger now, he's advanced again. Unfortunately, Wang Ping had no more chances. Even as his teammates, their faces grim, resolved to fight to the death and surged forward to rescue him. With Wang Zan wielding him like a club, his teammates were broken one by one. Like soccer balls, they were kicked far away. Against Wang Zan's speed, which was akin to a bloodline talent, they were powerless to resist. Bang! 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 Excluding Wang Ping and 2 other unlucky souls still in Wang Zan's grasp, 4 sickening thuds echoed, each one tightening the nerves of everyone present, both in and out of the arena. "A hopeless fight to the death is just foolish," Wang Zan said coldly. This small step he had taken instantly widened the gap between him and all his peers in the arena by a massive stride. Wang Ping looked at his teammates. Their faces were pale, some had even fainted, their conditions unknown. A sudden, stark realization hit him. They had truly lost. Lost to Wang Zan. "I had a premonition, but how can I accept this? And yet, could they still win? I'm the only one left. Who here is a match for Wang Zan?" Silent, utterly silent, Wang Ping finally lowered his head, allowing Wang Zan to do as he pleased. "You State Military Martial Academy. Admits defeat.